The initial, strange signal was a low, scraping groan that came from the clearing's edge. A lioness, her coat the color of gold, lay without moving, her side pressed into the dusty ground. Her cubs, trembling, huddled close. Dried blood matted her fur, and every shallow breath appeared to demand a tremendous effort. The man, Kareem, stood frozen for a moment, his heart constricting at the vision before him. With deliberate slowness, he knelt, keeping his distance, and watched as she lifted her head a tiny fraction. The cubs pushed gently at her side, their soft mews filled with fear, their eyes wide. "It's okay," Kareem breathed, his voice nearly stolen by the wind moving through the tall grass. "I'm not going to hurt you." For a long while, he just watched, taking note of the subtle lift and fall of her ribcage, the cubs shaking, and the strange, deserted feel of the clearing around them. A heavy silence seemed to press down upon him, the savannah's usual calls were hushed, as if the very land was holding its breath. Kareem made a deliberate decision. Retrieving a blanket from his vehicle, he began a painstakingly slow approach. The lioness didn't run, though her ears flicked back, her body went rigid, and her gaze tracked his every motion. The cubs edged forward, as if his calm demeanor signaled safety. Gently, he placed the blanket over her side, his voice a steady stream of soothing words. Once she seemed to tolerate his presence, Kareem started guiding her toward the small shelter he'd readied. He coaxed her forward inch by cautious inch with quiet gestures, never moving abruptly. The cubs followed, weaving a path between his legs and their mother. Within the shelter, the scent of fresh hay and clean water mixed with the lioness's wild, earthy odor, a strange and comforting blend. He settled her onto the soft bedding, and the cubs snuggled in closer, their small frames trembling with pent-up anxiety. Kareem examined her wounds, scrapes and a deep laceration along her flank, being careful not to touch anywhere that might hurt her. For a brief moment, the lioness's golden eyes met his, a silent understanding passing between them. Night descended, turning the clearing outside into a landscape of shadows and silver moonlight. The man brought water and food, setting them down just out of her reach initially, then slowly pushing them closer. She sniffed the offerings cautiously, then began to eat, her movements small and guarded. Her cubs copied her, their tiny teeth crunching on the food, their tails giving small, relieved flicks. By the time dawn arrived, the unimaginable had occurred. For the first time, the lioness rose fully, her strength coming back in small, shaky increments. She nudged her cubs toward Kareem and the shelter's opening, a display of trust that stole his breath away. As one, the three lions moved into the golden morning light, their paws sinking softly into the dew-covered grass. Kareem moved back, giving them room, his heart full but silent. The lioness halted, throwing one last look his way, a faint recognition of the vulnerable night they had shared. Then, she and her cubs vanished into the tall grass, slipping away like phantoms toward the far horizon. Kareem stood motionless for a long time afterward, listening to the soft sounds of their departure, holding on to the memory of a fragile trust that had grown in the darkness. The first hint came with dawn, a faint, distressed cry that floated across the savannah like a delicate thread. Kareem discovered the cubs alone at the shelter's edge, their mother gone. A tiny paw shook as they pressed together, soft whimpers escaping them. Her absence created a tension that weighed on the morning air. He crept closer, crouching low to minimize himself. "There's no need to be afraid," he breathed, his lips barely moving. The cubs tipped their heads, testing the air, their ears twitching at every sound in the tall grass. Kareem spotted a faint trail of paw prints heading toward a shallow, sunlit glade, the path marked by scuffs and a streak of dried blood. He followed with care, alert to every noise. The lioness was sprawled near a small, rocky outcrop, her golden coat looking dusty and stained with blood. She raised her head weakly, her muscles tight, her eyes watchful but without aggression. Her cubs padded to her, nuzzling and whimpering gently. Kareem watched in silence, observing that her breathing had become steadier since the prior night. The wounds were significant, a deep gash on her shoulder and various smaller cuts, but the subtle movements of her body hinted at a will to recover. The cubs moved around her, their small forms radiating nervous energy and a flicker of hope. He edged closer with measured strides, placing a clean blanket close by. "Easy now," he murmured, keeping his voice low and calm. The lioness flinched but held her ground. Slowly, she let him position water and fresh food just out of her reach, then gradually closer. She tested the offerings with a sniff, then started to eat, her cubs joining in with small, tentative bites. The morning progressed, and a peaceful pattern settled over the glade. Kareem saw the mother's body loosen little by little, a silent sigh moving through her shoulders. The cubs began to play gently around her legs, their tiny growls mixed with sudden, playful pounces. A connection had been made, a wordless agreement that the man posed no threat. Then, the unthinkable occurred, a sudden motion in the distance. Another lioness, larger and more streamlined, appeared at the tree line, her eyes sharp, her ears laid back. The mother went rigid at once, her protective instincts flaring. The cubs went still, pressing against her. Kareem remained motionless, letting nature decide. However, instead of attacking, the newcomer stopped, scenting the air. The two lionesses exchanged slow, deliberate signals, a slight head movement, a tail flick, and then settled near each other, a quiet recognition of shared responsibility for the cubs. Kareem caught his breath. He had never seen such a fragile, wordless negotiation of trust. By afternoon, the mother stood up fully, moving toward the water with her cubs close behind. The newcomer followed, careful and respectful, a quiet peace falling over the glade. Kareem withdrew, feeling the profound significance of the moment, a delicate balance restored, gained through patience, watching, and the slow construction of trust. As the sun started its descent, casting long shadows, Kareem remained in quiet contemplation. The lions drank, the cubs played, and a soft wind brought the smell of wildflowers and soil. The unthinkable had happened. Bonds were formed without force, trust won in small, careful increments. A sudden disturbance in the tall grass made Kareem freeze. The mother lioness tensed instantly, her ears pivoting, muscles coiling. Her cubs crowded against her, shaking, their tails low. Something unusual had come into the clearing. A wild dog emerged from the shadows, thin, starving, and desperate, circling cautiously at the periphery. Its bark was sharp and insistent, cutting through the morning quiet. The lioness let out a growl, a deep, resonant sound that Kareem could feel through the ground. The cubs pushed in tighter, their small bodies trembling against her, their eyes showing both terror and trust. Kareem remained absolutely still, his hands down, his voice a mere whisper. "Easy now. It's all right." The lioness's stare was fixed, calculating and ready, her muscles coiled for action. She didn't panic, but every line of her body spoke of alertness and protective intent. The wild dog lunged at the cubs, its teeth snapping. The mother reacted like lightning, surging forward in a streak of golden power. The dog yelped and disappeared into the shadows, leaving only the echo of its warning cry. The cubs trembled but made no sound. Their mother nudged them gently, rubbing her head against theirs, a soft vibration of comfort that fully calmed them. Kareem let out a slow breath. The mother's shoulder showed signs of strain, her movements careful. The cubs' tails twitched uneasily. He got a damp cloth and placed it near her with care. She rubbed against it cautiously, accepting this small gesture of comfort. Kareem observed the family's quiet routine, noticing the slight quiver in the cubs' paws and the slow, deep breaths of their mother. Hours went by in silent watchfulness. The cubs began to explore the clearing with hesitant curiosity, their ears pricked, their paws light on the ground. The mother shifted, her muscles relaxing as she lay down beside them, her eyes half closing in a moment of uncommon peace. Kareem understood that this fragile peace had been won through patience, close attention, and small acts of kindness. A breeze moved through the tall grass, carrying the smells of dry earth and distant acacia blossoms, and even the birds appeared to watch the tense stillness with careful awareness. From the far tree line, a huge male lion came into view, his golden fur gleaming in the late afternoon light. The mother went rigid, the cubs pressing tight to her flanks. Kareem's heart raced. He could feel the tension vibrating through the clearing. The male came on slowly, his nose twitching, his eyes fixed on the family. The very air seemed to stop. Then, unbelievably, he lowered his head, a clear sign of recognition. The mother stood, circling him with precise, controlled movements, her muscles tense but not aggressive. After several tense moments, the male gently nudged the cubs, silently accepting them. Limits had been examined, trust had been proven, and the family stayed together. As the sun sank low, painting the clearing in long shadows, the lions moved off as a group. The cubs played carefully, their mother beside them, the male keeping a protective watch from behind. Kareem stepped away, a quiet smile on his face, witnessing the fragile bond now made stronger. The clearing fell silent, just the wind moving the tall grass. The family dissolved into the golden haze of the savannah. Kareem stayed, his heart full, holding the memory of trust, patience, and attentive care that had created this remarkable harmony. A tense quiet lay over the clearing as the sun dropped low, washing the savannah in golden shadow. The cubs played cautiously, their small paws stirring the dry earth. The mother lioness kept close, her muscles tight, her eyes scanning any movement beyond the tall grass. Kareem watched from a distance, his heart tight, understanding that even in this fragile peace, danger could come without notice. A distant crack of twigs made the cubs freeze. Their ears swiveled, their tails lowered. The lioness stood at once, her chest low to the ground in a silent alert. Kareem felt the atmosphere change, the faint smell of rain mixing with something darker, another predator lurking nearby. From the acacia shadows, a lone hyena appeared. Its eyes gleamed in the fading light, its teeth bared in a silent snarl. The cubs whimpered quietly, pressing against their mother's legs. The lioness growled, a low, vibrating sound that echoed through the clearing. Every muscle in her body was taut as she put herself between Kareem and the hyena, her stance protective yet composed. Kareem stayed motionless, careful to avoid sudden moves. "Stay calm," he whispered, the words more for himself than the animals. The hyena circled, testing the air, hesitant yet bold. The cubs crouched, uncertain, while the mother's stare never shifted. Suddenly, the hyena lunged at the nearest cub. In an instant, the lioness launched herself forward, her muscles coiling and releasing with stunning power. The hyena yelped and fled toward the tree line, now cautious of her speed and strength. The cubs shook, but didn't cry. Their mother nudged them, a reassuring touch, letting them know the danger was gone, at least for now. Kareem breathed out slowly, realizing how near the threat had come. The mother moved with a slight limp from a hidden thorn, but her bearing remained firm. The cubs followed her example, exploring their environment again, ears up, tails low, but active. Kareem moved nearer, careful to keep a respectful distance, placing a small dish of water for them to drink without causing alarm. Hours passed as the family settled back into the clearing. The cubs played gently around their mother, sometimes stopping to look toward the shadows. The sun continued its fall, coloring the sky in orange and pink. A soft wind rustled the dry grass, carrying the faint smells of earth and distant flowers. Kareem watched, his heart racing but thankful, understanding the fine balance between patience, caution, and trust. Then, from a hidden ridge above, a new movement caught his eye. Another adult lion, one he didn't know, appeared slowly, its eyes fixed on the family. The mother stiffened, her ears flattening, her body low. Kareem held his breath. The cubs pressed tight to her sides. Instead of a confrontation, the newcomer paused, scenting the air with care and purpose. The mother's growl softened to a low rumble, a careful negotiation. After moments that seemed endless, the lion allowed the family to stay, withdrawing into the shadowy trees. Kareem realized that trust and composure had again overcome fear. As night came, the cubs curled close to their mother, tired but secure. The male from earlier came back from the distant trees, and the family's togetherness stayed firm. Kareem stepped back, feeling a quiet awe at the animal's strength and the fragile trust they had all come to share. The wind carried the soft echo of their presence across the savannah, a gentle, lasting memory of survival, patience, and attentive care. The first light of daybreak spread across the savannah, softening the night's remaining shadows. The lion cub stirred, nestling against their mother. Her injured shoulder ached slightly, but her watchfulness never lessened. Kareem knelt quietly nearby, his heart full, knowing that this day might be the last of his close observation of the family. A mild breeze carried the scent of far-off water and the delicate smell of wildflowers. The cubs walked carefully over the dry ground, their ears twitching, their tails flicking as they investigated the clearing. Their mother's gaze never left them. Every small move was protective, every breath measured. Kareem watched, noting the family's routine, the quiet trust that had developed over weeks of careful watching and gentle treatment. Suddenly, a low sound echoed across the plain. The male lion from earlier came out of the tree line, his golden fur catching the rising sun. The mother went rigid, the cubs pressing to her sides. Kareem's pulse jumped. He held his breath as the male came forward cautiously, his head low, his eyes scanning. Instead of aggression, the male brushed softly against the cubs, a quiet sign of acceptance and unity. The mother relaxed a little, her muscles loosening, and the cubs moved forward, hesitant but sure. Kareem exhaled slowly, feeling the rare beauty of trust and harmony in the wild. Hours passed as the family moved together through the clearing. The cubs played under their parents' watchful eyes, racing through the grass, tails waving, ears pricked. The mother limped now and then, but stayed steady, each careful step showing her strength. Kareem followed at a respectful distance, offering only his quiet presence, careful not to interfere. Then, on the horizon, sunlight gleamed off a distant herd of antelope. The lioness's ears twitched, her muscles tensing for a moment. The cubs froze, aware of her alertness. Kareem noted the instant, understanding that instinct, patience, and observation had become natural for both the family and himself. With a gentle push from their mother, the cubs moved along the clearing's edge, exploring, learning, living. The male followed close behind, protective but gentle. Kareem stepped back, feeling the sad pull of goodbye. The family had become strong, independent, yet their connection with him remained unspoken, delicate, and lasting. As the sun climbed higher, covering the savanna in warm gold, the lion family disappeared into the long grass. The cubs paused once, looking back briefly at Kareem. Their mother's gaze met his, and in that short moment, a quiet understanding passed between the human and the wild. No words were necessary. The trust, patience, and care of many weeks had been silently recognized. The clearing grew still. Only the wind whispered through the grass, holding the memory of the family's presence. Kareem stayed, his heart full, knowing he had seen something remarkable, the delicate dance of trust, the strength of life, and the quiet power of bonds that cross the lines between species. The savanna held its breath, and then slowly the rhythm of the wild continued, steady, lasting, and endlessly.